Boys, UFC Fight Night Nicolau versus Perez takes place this Saturday, April 27th, and am I the only one who's on such a high from UFC 300 that I am? Yes, there's some decent fights on this card, but I'm just not interested in them at all. You guys have to let me know in the comments below. Are you guys even interested in this card after what we had at UFC 300? But with that being said, we're going to go over every single fight on the card and give you my quick predictions on who I think is going to win. Opening up the prelims, we have Gabriel Benitez versus Maheshate, a light heavyweight fight. And then when it comes to the height, Maheshate is a taller opponent by a good portion, 6 foot compared to 5'8" against Gabriel. When it comes to reach, they're practically identical. Slightly favored on the Maheshate side, but nothing dramatically. For Gabriel Benitez, he's all around just a good solid fighter. He's really good at pressuring the opponent and making them go on the back foot. But even though he's all around good, has good pressure, he's still missing some pretty basic things to add into his all around game. He's very tough, but he is not that technical. Moving over to the Maheshate side, a lot more technical. He has, in my opinion, the better IQ out of the two fighters. When he gets hurt, he goes in for takedowns. He's not afraid to mix up some things in the striking, unlike Gabriel Benitez. We've seen Maheshate get hit a few times flush on the chin and stay standing up. He has a very underrated chin in my opinion. Better all-around technique in my opinion. Plus, how we saw with Chris Weidman going for those eye pokes, Maheshate is definitely not someone who shies away from eye pokes. And like DC says, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So I'm going Maheshate here all day. Like I said, Maheshate has a better technique, so I can see while Gabriel is trying to pressuring him, putting him on the back foot, I can see Maheshate landing something that doesn't knock him down, but definitely does stun him. And after that, Maheshate would take him to the ground and finish it from there. I do see a scenario where this could go to the decisions, but I do see this more likely ending in a finish of either some kind of TKO or submission win for Maheshate. Moving down to the women's flyweight division, we have Ivana Petrovic versus Liang. Ivana, the taller fighter with a taller reach in her legs and her arms. And Ivana is coming into this fight with a bunch of hype. We've been told to watch out for this girl even before she was in the UFC. She's all around just a lot better than Liang in my opinion. Good ground game, better striking. For Liang, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have that much good things to say about her. She honestly gets finished a lot in a lot of her fights, which is pretty crazy because typically in women's fight you don't see a lot of finishes, but she gets finished a lot. Granted, she does get some good finishes herself, but at the end of the day, she's also getting finished a lot, which isn't a good look in my opinion. If we just move over to like the stats and everything, the significant strikes, the grappling, all of those are favoriting Liang to actually win. She lands more strikes per minute. She has a higher significant strike percentage, but she also absorbs more strikes per minute, almost double than Ivana. Her defense is almost half of Ivana. Takedown average per 15 minutes, Liang is at 5.1, where Ivana's only at 1. Takedown accuracy, she's at 60%, where Ivana's at 33%. Takedown defense, she has a 0, Ivana has a 66%. Submission average, 2 for Ivana, 0.85 for Liang. So a lot of mixed things here, a lot of stuff pointing to like Liang could possibly win this, but I don't think that whatsoever. I don't think Liang has fought anyone near the competition as Ivana. Ivana honestly might be one of the very few like locks of the night. Now this is women's MMA, so unless you want to be a degenerate and go bet on some women's MMA, don't take any of this advice seriously to the casinos or any of that stuff. But in my opinion, I think Ivana is one of the locks of the card. But again, women's MMA, so be careful what you do with your money. Liang does get finished a lot, so I can see Ivana piecing her up on the feet, getting a nice TKO win. I don't think it's going to be a flatline or anything, because that's just extremely rare for women's MMA. But yeah, just with the longer reach and everything, being taller, and in my opinion, just better all around, I see this ending in a finish. Moving to James Llontop versus Chris Padilla in the lightweight division. Now in the lightweight division, James Llontop 6 foot flat, while Chris Padilla 5.9. So James is a tiny bit taller, nothing dramatic. The reach advantage by 3 inches does actually go to Chris Padilla. But with that being said, Chris Padilla is coming on short notice to fight James Llontop. So James Llontop has had a full fight camp to prepare for this. Granted, so did Chris Padilla. He was supposed to fight someone else, but they're moving on to James Llontop. But his fight wasn't for a little bit, so he's gonna have to start cutting weight earlier than expected. So I don't know how well that weight cut is gonna translate. He's never really really had that much problems making weight. But again, coming off a short notice, all that stuff can play an effect into the actual fight. With that being said, Chris Padilla, he hasn't really had that much big names in his resume, especially because he was on a pretty no-name like underground promotion for most of his career so far. Again, short notice isn't going to help him whatsoever. Going to James Llontop, on the other hand, he's had good fights and good wins over some good contenders before even entering the UFC, which is great to see. And one thing I really like about James Llontop and why I think he's going to win is because he's very calculated in his attacks. He has extremely good defense in my opinion. A lot of stuff that I see Chris Padilla lacking in, James Llontop actually has and excels at. Good defense, very good composure, and just extremely tactical with everything he does, especially on the feet, defense-wise, attack-wise. I think James Llontop's going to get it done. I could see this going into a decision, but like I said, one of the big factors that I'm taking part in is that Chris Padilla is coming into this fight very early and on late notice. So I think James Llontop's going to eventually find that shot throughout this fight and get the KO TKO win. Let's move up to the women's strawweight division. We have Marinik Mann versus Ketlin Souza. Now this one I am torn on. I'm not going to lie. For Marinik Mann, she has quite possibly the biggest crimson chin I've seen in the whole women's strawweight division. On the other hand, Ketlin Souza looks like a man, but the chin is almost non-existent to her. So because her chin is so small, it's either going to be like a glass chin or it's going to be hard to get because it's so small. But moving over to Marinik Mann, because her chin's so big, it's either going to be really easy to hit because there's so much surface area to actually hit, or it's going to be like a titanium level chin because of how much surface area there is. So I'm kind of torn on what I think's actually going to happen in this fight. The taller fighter is Souza by 3 inches with the longer reach just in the arms. Mann has a leg reach advantage, but after that, Marinik Mann, 50% of her wins come from TKO KOs, where Souza's TKO win takes up 62% of her wins. And in situations like this, whichever woman looks the scariest and more likes a dude, I typically go for. So I'm going with Ketlin Souza. I can see either a pretty dominant decision win for Ketlin Souza, or she's going to find that massive chin on Marinik Mann and put her down for the TKO KO win. But let's move up to the heavyweight division. We have Don'Tale Mayes versus Caio Machado. I believe this is the first time Machado has fought anyone who is taller than him. Mayes is coming into this 2 inches taller than Machado, which I believe is a first in his career, at least in the UFC. Deontay Mayes has the reach advantage. Deontay Mayes does also weigh in a good bit heavier than Machado. He's probably gonna have around like a 20-25 pound weight advantage on his side. So I believe he's gonna be the stronger fighter out of the two. I believe he's gonna have the better grappling and the better striking. I hope he does use his reach advantage in this fight. But with that being said, Deontay Mayes at times has some terrible IQ when it comes to fighting. But also Machado doesn't have the best fighting style to fight someone like a Deontay Mayes. If I had to compare him to anyone, it would probably be like a Nate Diaz or even a Bobby Green. A Bobby Green is like a perfect example for Machado. He has a very similar to Bobby Green, where Bobby Green likes to keep his hands low, fire from the hip. Those are some of the big things that I see Machado doing a lot that's going to get him caught in this fight. Keeping his hands low against someone like a Deontay Mayes is not a good idea in my opinion whatsoever. So with all that being said, I think eventually Deontay Mayes will find the chin of Machado, put him out, KO, TKO win. It is heavyweight. It just takes one shot. 70% of Deontay Mayes' wins are coming from that KO, TKO win. So I think KO win, Deontay Mayes. Moving up to the lightweight division, we have Austen Hubbard versus Michal Figlak. Now, Figlak was previously undefeated before his last fight, but we have to remember he was going into that fight last minute. He was a late, short notice replacement fight, and he ended up losing that fight. So that's the only loss on his record. When it comes to the height and reach, they're practically identical. Austen Hubbard in his last few fights has not shown the best all-around fighting skills. In my opinion, I think Figlak beats every single person that Austen Hubbard lost against. I think Figlak is just way better all around. Don't get me wrong, it's a close fight, but I think Figlak's striking defense is way better than Hubbard's. He might not land as much like Hubbard, but he does land harder in my opinion. His takedown grappling, it's not the best. He has good takedown defense. His accuracy is not the greatest. But overall, mixing everything together, I think Figlak is better than Hubbard, and I can see Figlak taking the win by maybe like a split decision. Again, I can see this being a close fight, but I can see Figlak just doing a little bit more to get the decision win. Let's move over into the bantamweight division. We have Rani Yahya versus Victor Henry. This one is another, like, I guess you can say lock of the card, but again, no betting advice here. But Victor Henry, it's so hard to bet against Victor Henry. Victor Henry has shown that he can be good consistently for all 3 rounds. We haven't seen him in a 5-rounder, or at least I don't think we have. But all 3 rounds, he has shown time and time again he can be very consistent in each of those rounds. He doesn't drop off halfway into the 2nd round. No, he's very consistent all throughout. Where someone like Yahya gasses out and isn't as consistent as Henry. And am I that afraid of Yahya's grappling against Victor Henry? I think Victor Henry is a better grappler than the two. Now, with that being said, Yahya definitely has some more submissions than Victor Henry. Victor Henry's takedown defense is great. He almost never gets taken down in any of his fights. And yeah, like I said, another lock of the card. Put Victor Henry and Ivana on a parlay. That's literally infinite money glitch right there. But with that being said, Victor Henry by decision. I don't think he'll be able to finish Yahya. He doesn't necessarily have the most like finishing aspects in his game, but decision win, Victor Henry. I could see a 30-27. Let's move up to the main card now. We have in the welterweight division, Tim Means versus Uroš Medić. Tim Means, the old vet in the welterweight divisions, at least one of them. Medić is now coming into his prime. When it comes to height and reach and all that stuff, they're pretty much identical. Tim Means does have a little bit of the advantage. But like I said, Tim Means is the old veteran of the game. Medić is coming into his prime. I do believe Medić does have the better cardio to last a 15-round fight. Both of these guys are finishers. Most of their wins are coming from that TKO KO win bracket. And yeah, this one, it's also so hard to pick a veteran and an old guy like Tim Means. When it's coming into someone like this, not necessarily like an up-and-comer, but someone who's coming into their prime, I think Uroš Medić is gonna get it done most likely by like a 2nd round, 3rd round when Tim Means is starting to slow down. TKO win. Like I went over, Uroš Medić has really good cardio. He doesn't really slow down throughout the fight, where someone like Tim Means will definitely start to slow down as the fight gets longer. Let's move up the card to the featherweight division. Jonathan Pearce versus David Onama. Coming into this fight, again, both of their height and reaches are practically identical. No real advantage for either of the fighters. As well as it comes to the striking, both of them have practically the exact same striking stats when it comes to landed per minute, significant strikes, absorbed per minute, and the defense. The only thing is that David Onama does get hit a little bit more per minute than Jonathan Pearce, but other than that, the stats are practically identical. Little bit of advantages for both fighters, but nothing significant. Then into the grappling, Jonathan Pearce wipes the board with David Onama. He has all the advantages: takedown average, takedown accuracy, takedown defense, and submission average. With that being said, David Onama is just starting to enter into his prime. He hasn't fought in a while, so that's not the greatest look in my opinion. Does he also have the greatest takedowns or takedown defenses? No, he really doesn't. His takedown defense is a little bit less than half, so I believe someone like a Jonathan Pearce can get him down. But where the threat is for Jonathan Pearce in this fight, his striking is about even with David Onama, at least stat-wise, but David Onama definitely has the cleaner, crisper, more technical striking than Jonathan Pearce. Jonathan Pearce's striking isn't as good as David Onama's. So that is where each fighter can win. If David Onama can keep it standing, he can definitely have the advantage in the striking. But like I said, Jonathan Pearce, I think, is someone who can not easily, but eventually get the takedown against David Onama. David Onama, again, hasn't fought in a good amount of time, which you don't like to see. So I want to see how that plays out. Again, this is a closer fight than a lot of people are thinking, but I can see eventually Jonathan Pearce eventually getting the takedown. Who knows, it might be the first takedown he shoots, the second, the third, he'll eventually get the takedown. Do I see him getting a submission win? No. No, Jonathan Pearce isn't much of a submission threat. Yes, he has submissions in his arsenal, but he's not much of a finisher using submissions. I see him getting him down. Full mount, ground and pound win, Jonathan Pearce. Let's move up the card to the heavyweight division. We have Austen Liang versus Jhonata Diniz. Another very close fight fight in my opinion. When it comes to height and reach, all that stuff favors Austen Lane. Austen Lane, in my opinion, is a good technical fighter. He is the faster fighter out of the two. He has pretty decent fight IQ. It just seems like sometimes when he's fighting, he shells up a little bit too much. He doesn't want to fully engage. He's scared of the shots coming back at him. He can be a little bit timid at times, which does cost him. But with that being said, Diniz is a world-class kickboxer in the fact that he does train with a bunch of world-class kickboxers. So the striking advantage I'm definitely going to give to Diniz. And one thing that I really like from Diniz is he has very good tight defense when it comes to striking. His chin is always down. He has his hands up. His defense and striking is honestly amazing in the heavyweight division. In my opinion, this fight doesn't see the judges' scorecard. Someone's getting put to sleep, especially as the heavyweight division. Anything can happen. But because of that amazing defense that I said from Diniz, always keeping his chin down, I can see Diniz getting this one done. Let's move on. We have 3 more fights to go to. Women's flyweight division. We have Ariane Lipski versus Karine Silva. Now, out of the 2 women, Lipski does definitely have the better wins in her resume. But with that being said, out of the 2 women, who's more athletic? It's definitely going to be for Silva. She's way more athletic than Lipski, in my opinion. Lipski has shown to be very inconsistent in her fights. She'll lose to someone who we all think she should win against. She'll win against someone who we think she should lose against. Very, very inconsistent in her last few fights. But on the other hand, Silva's coming in this, in my opinion, the better finishing ability, and she's way more consistent than someone like Lipski. I want to pick Silva. I think Silva is all around just a way better fighter than Lipski. I believe she has a heavier hands. She has the more instincts to go for submissions. In the UFC, all of her wins are coming by finish, which is amazing to see. But on the other hand, like I said, Lipski always wins against people who she should lose against. So with that being said, I'm picking Lipski, probably the craziest pick of the whole card. I don't know, she's gonna find a way to win this fight, probably through the judges. So give me Lipski by decision. Women's MMA doesn't make sense anyways, so give me Lipski. Let's move on to the co-main event, light heavyweight division. Ryan Spann versus Bogdan Guskov, and this is a great matchup for Ryan Spann, in my opinion. Coming off that loss to Anthony Smith, honestly the only reason why he lost that fight is just because he decided to shit the bed and have some terrible fight IQ in that fight. But typically in his fights, he does display the higher fight IQ. I think he has a better fight IQ than Guskov. I think he's going to be more technically sound. He's going to have the better defense, the better striking. He does have the advantage of the height, reach, and I think he's going to weigh a little bit heavier on fight night. This is the first time Guskov is fighting someone who is taller than him, so he always does have the height advantage. And like I said, Ryan Spann, I believe, just has a better IQ all around. I can see Guskov surviving all the rounds, getting pieced up on the feet, maybe surviving some takedown threats, but I see Ryan Spann winning this one by decision. Let's move over to the main event, flyweight division. Matheus Nicolau versus Alex Perez. I think this is a very good matchup for Nicolau. Perez's fight style is extremely basic and something that Nicolau can exploit, in my opinion. When it comes to significant strikes and the grappling, all of that stuff is practically even. When it comes to the official numbers, landed per minute goes slightly to Alex Perez, but significant strikes goes to Nicolau. Strikes absorbed per minute is even. The defense percentage is better on Nicolau's side. Perez's takedown average is slightly higher. Matheus Nicolau's takedown accuracy is slightly higher, as well as his takedown defense is slightly higher. Submission average is about even. But with that being said, again, Alex Perez is very basic with what he does. Matheus Nicolau, in my opinion, is just all around the better fundamental fighter compared to Alex Perez. People think this is a lot closer of a fight than what it actually is. I see Matheus Nicolau pretty much wiping the floor with Alex Perez for all 5 rounds. I don't see this ending in any kind of finish. I see Matheus Nicolau winning every single round, maybe dropping 1 round, but other than that, Matheus Nicolau by a pretty easy judge's decision. And yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? And yeah, thank you guys for watching to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. You guys have to let me know what you think of these predictions. Which ones am I gonna get right? Which one am I gonna get wrong? Are you guys even gonna watch any of these fights? Are you just gonna wait to the main event? Are you watching this entire card? I'm watching the entire card. I don't care how bad it is. It just is what it is. And with all that being said, there's really not that much else left to say, except for I will see you guys in my next video.